G'day Lee.
G'day David.
We're here this morning in memory of your dad, and we want a lot of your memories too, early memories from perhaps the Brookvale days.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. Well, we basically grew up in Brookvale, across the road from Ringa, actually Brookvale Oval, and those days we used to, break into the Brookvale Oval through the corrugated tin shed, sort of corrugated fences that they had there, and we used to play on the oval back then, and we'd race our bikes down Alfred Street. So we had a good time there, and Dad had a shed in the back full of knickknacks, cars and boats that he was actually building a boat at the time, but he worked. My early memories of him was he worked at Esso at North Manly, where the registry was. I won a competition along with a few other kids, and we had a little square taped on the Ringa Mall, David Jones.
Yes, yes.
And we had to paint a picture of our father.
Yes.
And so what I remember back then, I painted my father, and then where I knew he worked at the time was at the Esso service station. But it wasn't until the early 70s that he purchased the property down at North Narrabeen to begin what is now to be called Parkway Motors. And
Right.
That's when he first started off. That's when he went on his own, started doing his Daihatsu conversions, and then expanding his business from there.
Now, Parkway Motors, therefore, is on the site that we now know as the Emporium.
That's correct. Yeah. Prior to that, that was where Volkswagen Youngs of Collaroy were, and Dad started his apprentice with Youngs of Collaroy back in the 50s.
Right.
And it's funny how the life turns itself around, but he ended up buying the premises with the help of Mum in the early 80s to then turn it into Parkway Motors. What was told to me by my dad some years ago was that site prior to Young's was now I don't know if it's true, but it sounds true, was during World War II they used to make ammunitions there for the army. It had used to have service stations on the side as well, but they were taken away, and Dad converted it into strictly selling the cars and having a workshop service area in the back.
Was he a hard taskmaster?
Yeah, he was hard but firm. He was a good dad. He always said to me, he goes, "I'll teach you my way. Someone else will teach you your way, and if you come up with a better way in between that you think's better, then you do it that way."
Well, your dad was 14 years of age when he was legally driving
Yeah.
with an adult with him.
Yeah.
And there are some funny stories about picking up manure for the tomato property
Yes.
in the Hawkesbury area.
Yeah, he was telling me he used to go out there and pick up all the cow patties off the farms out Windsor Road.
Yes.
And he did say to me about that story where he was going up to Bahai Temple.
Yes.
And the tailgate opened and the truck was overloaded and all the manure just went all over the road and blocked Monavale Road for hours.
Yes.
And there was like crap everywhere. So he got apparently kicked up the pants by his father.
As you would.
I remember we used to go to the farm, and as my brother was saying, light fires. And one day me and my cousin went in this open paddock, and there's it was a dry summer, and the grass was about over my head, and we decided to cook eggs right in the middle of the paddock. Next you know, all below Marta Maria, the whole valley was like on fire. Ambulances and fire brigade come, and so the share farmers are there with their wet potato sacks, putting things out, trying to save all the glass houses. It was so funny.
Now, Graham, right in front of us, we have a beautiful Buick. I believe it's a 1941 model. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more.
Well, it's got so much chrome on it, it it's just they don't make them like this anymore. A lot
Yes.
of these cars, and I can't believe the work that goes into all this chrome work on these cars. The castings, and it's just like insane, you know, what they used to do back then and sell them for nothing compared to what cars are worth now, and they're all plastic.
Yes, and the cost of chroming today is amazing.
Yeah. And this is a straight 8. It's a singles carburettor. Very nice car. Drives like a Rolls Royce.
It's a Roadster too, I think, isn't it?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, it's got the convertible top.
Yep.
But the other one behind you is the beautiful black Mercury that we saw many times down at PMEA.
Yeah, that's a V8 flathead.
Yes.
It's always been tuned by Dad. He's always, you know, made sure it all runs like a kitten. It does purr like a kitten.
Yes.
Very nice car.
He was very proud of it.
All these cars, he's always tinkered around and done the brakes, you know, anything that needs to be done, seals, gearbox seals, gear shift linkages, rubbers, everything is up to scratch. They just drive like virtually they've been off the showroom.
And the Singer.
Okay.
The Singer is the piece de resistance, I think.
Yeah, the Singer alone, I remember when I was a young kid, it was all in pieces, and I had to if we moved house, I remember like we always had to pick up all the panels and everything and all the spare parts. And when I was a kid, it was always covered in the backyard with an old tarp. I used to go up underneath the chassis and come through the floorboards and play in the inside of the car. And yeah, I remember one day we went out to look at another person's Singer, and that was a Singer that had no mud guards, and Dad was pretty sort of, he's a type of guy not to intrude on people's, you know, garages or you know, and I said to Dad, you should bring the camera, because Dad wanted to get some pictures for, you know, the restoration of this car, so, you know, he could see, you know, like anyone would love to take pictures, you know, because there wasn't that much info around. And he went to this guy's garage, and we were there, and the gentleman goes, and I'm telling Dad, bring a camera. No. And the gentleman said, did you bring a camera? And anyway, it was like you know, it was another argument I got into with my father, but you know.
Well, now here we have a 1949 model MGTC in pieces.
Yeah, this one had bad rings and bearings, and it was in the process, and you can even see the tools still left in the same position of when this car was getting worked on by my dad.
Yes.
It's even on the same jack stands.
Yes.
So it's sort of like it's, you know, this is his style. This is where he worked. He had all covers over the guards. All the motor had been rebuilt. The bottom end's all been done. New bearings, all new seals, new pistons, overhead. The cylinder head's been done up. He's actually put a 5-speed gearbox behind this too.
Oh, has he? Obviously, to the end of his life, Henry was restoring this car, and as things got probably a little bit difficult for him, look, he's been polishing brass parts.
With the trucks, a lot of people they'd only be like a 2-ton truck, and a lot of people put 4 or 5 ton, you know, payload on with, you know, hungry boards.
Yes.
They'd go up to Kimbrickie tip, break, you know, and blow the motors, because there wasn't any like patrols were saying, oh, you overloading your truck.
Yes.
You could put whatever you want on the back of the vehicle. So I remember one time a truck came in, and Dad had this truck. It was a Daihatsu, and the guy came in, and the tyre was flat, right? It had dual tyres on the back. The guy had about 3.5 ton load of rock in the back of this Daihatsu truck, and I remember he come in with a flat tyre, and like the thing's leaning like this, and we never even had a jack heavy enough to lift up the axle to change the tyre. And they told them just take it straight up to the tip on the 3 back wheels, because there was no, we couldn't change the tyre.
Sure.
Yeah, and he used to fit Holden motors to the trucks. That was his specialty, and he would designed and made a bell housing.
Yes.
That he ended up getting Dello's.
Dello. They made a car too, Dello.
No, Dello's bell housing. He was an engineer that would cast and make conversion parts.
Yes.
And he was making the bell housings that suit the Holden 179 motors.
Right.
So he was fitting those motors to a lot of Daihatsu trucks. The Daihatsu truck had a real good body on them, good ram, good cabin, but as I was saying, the motors failed.
Yes.
So he developed and made a conversion kit for the Daihatsu truck. So he was buying trucks, as my brother was talking about the trading post and papers.
Yes.
We've blown up motors.
Yes.
And bringing them in, if they need a respray, he would paint them and fit Holden motors to them.
My name's Stuart Dunbar. A lot of the people in the club know me. I done my apprenticeship back in '84, where I met Graham Kalazich at Tech, and got to know him over a number of years. And I got to know Henry, his father, and lo and behold, he went to school with my father. So we've known the family for a long time. My father was on a tomato farm in Monavale, as Henry was down Warriewood doing the tomato farm thing. So they all got on together. I learnt a lot from Henry. A very knowledgeable guy, a very generous guy, but he did have a lot of time to share his knowledge on a lot of things automotive. But I really do treasure him, and I'll miss him big time. Well, here we are with Graham at another spot where Henry kept some of his cars from his projects. These are things that have been running, and I've done a few regos on for him. But we'll start with a Willys Jeep here. Graham knows a fair bit about this one.
This is one that he brought. It was quite beat up, but it was all in good shape. There wasn't much rust in it, and it was in pretty original condition. And I remember when he drove it home, he parked in the garage, and it started up a few times, and then suddenly it wouldn't start. So we used to push it and roll it out of the shop, out of the garage and back to get other cars out. Anyway, one day I thought to myself, I'm going to get this thing going. So I went and bought a new battery for it and went to try crank it over. No crank, couldn't start it. So I go, oh, what's happening? And then we put a spanner on the front pulley. We couldn't turn it, so next the head comes off. So we're looking down in the cylinders, all the pistons are swollen up because the head gasket leaked, the water's gone in amongst all the pistons and the motor was seized, so motor's out. Next you know, clutch needed done, next you know, the brakes needed done, next you know, anyway, that was my contribution to this truck. And I used to drive it, have it registered, and drive it around just as an original Jeep. Then Dad ended up going, all right, ripping it apart and doing the next stage and fully painting it out and repairing a lot of stuff that I never actually repaired. And anyway, this now runs, it drives, and it just is a lovely, lovely Jeep to drive.
So Graham, can you tell us a bit about the Chevy on the hoist in front of us?
It's a 1940 model convertible. It's original right-hand drive vehicle that was brought into Australia, and there was only a handful of them made. It was originally a Consulate car that Dad picked up somewhere down the Grapevine. It's right now he's fixing up the steering, the lower and upper control arm bushes, I think kingpins.
Yeah, right.
And he's just making sure it's all good.
So on the hoist to the left, there's a Buick 8 on the top, right?
Yeah, Buick 8 sedan, two-door coupe. Again, that one come over from the States. He brought that actually with a 46 Ford convertible, which is underneath the
Oh, another
hoist.
Mercury?
The Mercury, yep. And he brought them back over, and that's where they sat. And he was planning to do work and get them going, but he's had too much on his plate, and this is where they stand now.
Right.
So it's like a barn find.
So you got a bit of work ahead of you now?
Yeah. We'll do something with them. We'll get up to where we can get them running and started, and hopefully enjoy the and prosperous the pleasure of where Dad left off.
Yeah.
And the Confederate here, he brought to a lot of shows.
Yeah, apparently it come and won a lot of awards. It's a very nice, well restored 1932 Chev 6-cylinder. You can see on the front bonnet there, you can see those grill parts. They actually open up and let hot air come out from the engine bay. They flap open.
Right.
Cadillac was ones that had them on their cars in their time too, and that was these 32s were a lot nicer looking than a 32 Ford, but they were cheaper because in 32 Ford had the V8, the first V8 come out.
Oh, the flathead, yes.
Yeah, and so Chev made their cars look really grand, and sold.
Well, we used to threaten Henry about turning a hot rod and chopping it and decking it, but he used to look at us in horror.
I would love that. Yeah, he would love that.
Yeah, but we'd never do it to this one.
Nah.
Even when we were at Parkway Motors together, there was a lot of old cars in the workshop. The Stutz was there, the XK120 was there.
Yeah.
So it was quite interesting to see the older cars. I think that's where I started to get my enjoyment of the old engineering and thoroughly enjoyed it.
It's sorry to see some of the cars that he did have that he did sell, but that's hindsight. Dad actually he looked at you as one of his sons.
No,
I
he was a good
remember that,
man.
and he always used to sort of talk to you like he would if he was talking to me or my brother.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've been a good asset to our family and a good friend.
I appreciate it. No, I'll definitely miss him. Now he's passed, but I've learned a lot from him, and he's a very good mentor of mine.
Yeah, good for you, Stuart.
Wonderful man.
Dad taught me a lot, but he'd always give me the opportunity to learn the hard way too, and I love the guy, so much, and it's a shame that there's still a lot of stories that now aren't going to be told.